What's going on, ambitious vets? Welcome to episode number 29 of the Ambitious Vet Show with Army veteran and Dream Big, Play Bigger founder, AJ Richards. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet. My name is Chris Hoffman, Marine combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. Now guys, we're here to dive into the trenches with today's top-performing military veterans that were once warrior-made, but are now passion-driven. Now guys, as they share their stories, their failures, and their journeys of what it took, we just hope that this unlocks your secret formula to living a more impactful, meaningful, and top-performing civilian life. So if you're listening to this, you probably got a pretty big vision, wouldn't you say? Well, you're probably realizing with big visions means that it's a long climb up, and sometimes the weather gets a little bit harder as you climb step by step, and sometimes it gets a little bit lonelier as the higher altitude you get up, and we call that adversity. Guys, I want to personally invite you over to Veteran Empowerment Transition, our Facebook group, where we are creating a new breed of transitioning veterans, ones that we're equipping with tools, the network, and the strategies to create an impactful life out of the uniform. It has over 570 veterans that we've built up completely organically in the past 12 months, where we're having weekly interviews live inside of the group where you get real-time engagement with these top military influencers, and when obviously we repurpose it to this podcast. And more importantly, we're going to start in 2019 spotlighting a weekly ambitious vet where they're going to be bringing in a Facebook Live passion-driven tip, and not to mention a few other surprises that me, Ben, and Crystal have in store to just really help you build the relationships needed and learn the intangibles of what it takes to really be known for something out of the uniform. So guys, again, that's Veteran Empowerment Transition Group. We look forward to helping equip you to be that top performer out of the uniform. We'll see you there. AJ Richards is going to be on the show tonight. So AJ is a Army veteran who served in Iraq from 2005 to 2006. In 2007, 2012, he transitioned right into pretty much just being a sales rep, knocking door to door for a pest control company. In that time period, he became a sales team trainer for the company. So he developed some good communication skills in there, but I really want you guys to listen deeply and closely wherever you are around how he shares how he went from Army to knocking door to door and what he had to overcome to rebuild his confidence out of the uniform with that. In 2012, he opened Rush RX LLC, now Rush Club Human Performance Center, a fitness facility that's in Mesa, Arizona that trains people to reach their full potential. In 2013, him and a friend, Stacey Snyder, founded Rush Club. Rush Club was a head-to-head weight class-based functional fitness competition. Now, he recently chose to shut that down after broadcasting it live to over 250,000 people around the world. And now he put on, he really describes that he really put on a killer show, and he really did. He's really bringing UFC to disabled people in the world and helping them have a voice, create an impact, and compete with each other, which is a really awesome thing to see. So now, fast forward to this interview, he is now transitioning to a new life purpose, which is literally dream big, play bigger, coaching practice, a podcast, where he's literally narrowing the gap for military families and spouses that are coming back from combat or even just getting out of the uniform, helping them get closer and create that passion, that intimacy that every man and woman, got together and eventually, pretty much just got married for, right? So guys, I'm excited to dive into this. He does a really good job as far as breaking his life into steps. He has a lot of life experience, from sales training to knocking door to door to private security to eventually finding CrossFit. But more importantly, guys, he really dives into what we are addicted to as military active duty members and what we're not getting enough of when we get out. He's really good at illustrating that. He is a brother of mine. We served and Landmark Worldwide, a transformative company out here in San Diego together, guys. This gets deep. It gets authentic. Guys, without further ado, I'm going to stop talking. Let's go ahead and dive into the trenches with A.J. Richards. Let's go get it. You there, brother?
I'm here.
Welcome to the Ambitious Vet, man.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
We're excited. We're excited to have you, man. So go ahead and fill the gaps of that bio and let us know a little bit about who you are.
Yeah. So, man, you covered a lot of it, but one thing I will change just a little bit, just for any, buddy that wants to call me out. I did one combat tour with the U.S. Army, and then I went back for about 3 months with SOC for private security operation. And
nice.
After 3 months and not holding a weapon on an entry control point and nothing but a radio, I decided that wasn't the best place for me to be. So I had them send me home. Funny story about that. When I went over with a plane full of contractors. And when I went home, they sent me to the front doors of the Baghdad International Airport. I didn't know I was going to the front doors of the Baghdad International Airport. I thought I was flying home with a bunch of other expats.
Oh, shit.
I look like an expat. I'm wearing khakis, combat boots, a shirt that says Property of the Iraqi Shooting Club, and a ball cap with the flag, a tan ball cap. I'm with the civilians, and I know some of those dudes are planting the IEDs and that kind of stuff that was going on. And I'm just like, it was the most uncomfortable experience I've had up to that point in my life. And I had a 30-hour layover in Bahrain, which I felt like was the international hub for every terrorist from the country, and it was a trip. But anyway, so yeah, you pretty much covered it, man. I've definitely always been a dreamer. I've not been afraid to go after the things I dream about. Failure doesn't scare me. Failure can make me hesitate a little bit to make the leap, and sometimes I think that's a weakness that I'm overcoming. But failure doesn't scare me. So I'll go for things, and sometimes that's a weakness, though, because every day the way my brain works is I have 10 new ideas of something I want to do. And I always constantly redirect myself or allow my wife to help redirect me. So I've got 3 daughters. My oldest is 13. My middle is 9, and my youngest is 7. So they're definitely my world along with their mother. And my mom likes to laugh because I'm paying for it. All the grief I gave her, I'm the oldest of 5 boys. So wow. She definitely, is happy that I have to raise daughters. And anyway, I love them. And so yeah, I'm in one of the offices in my gym right now. We just expanded from the last time we spoke. I moved. We're in a beautiful facility here in Mesa, Arizona. Our focus is on community and building a tribe. I'm trying to recreate for people what it meant for us to be in those units, because that's what I think the majority of us miss, is that connection. And civilians, I don't think, get that experience. And when they do, they can't figure out why they would consider not taking a job out of the state because of this place, right? And they're getting to experience tribe that they've never done because it's not available in the civilian world, right? So anyway, yeah, so let's dig in, brother.
It's awesome, man. That's freaking awesome. Yeah. That was one thing we were talking about, before we went live here, is like how he was like my first episode of the Ambitious Vet Show. And it was when I was still on my cell phone, and it was like skipping over and over again. And I'm like trying to read a script and all that. It was horrendous, but he was the first guest. I really appreciate you, as I said, taking that risk with me. But
my pleasure.
It is awesome, brother. One thing I do appreciate you is anywhere you go, you build a culture around you. You really do. And you're very good at that. So before we kind of dive into, how you've been able to build that, is like, tell us a little bit about your transition story, brother. Like, tell us a little bit about that story and how you actually started developing like your fulfillment, like figuring out what your passion was and stuff like that once you got out.
Yeah, so when I got home, I was recruited to sell pest control door to door. I'm from a small town in St. George, Utah, and the majority, the culture there primarily are LDS Mormons, and they spend a lot of time, 2 years going knocking door to door. So that's a really common recruiting thing. And one of the guys that I went to high school with, I didn't go on a mission, so I didn't have those same skills. But I went to high school with this guy, and he was, making all kinds of money selling door to door. So he recruited me to go do that. And I said yes, and I went and did it, and I went to like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then another spot in Georgia, Buford, Georgia, I think it was, and hated every second of it. Every second of it, I hated it. I remember thinking when I would go from door to door, having it slammed in my face or the no's, the rejections, I was thinking, man, I used to be a warrior, and now I'm selling pest control. Like my life has no purpose. Where's the value in being a salesman and being this, And so, I mean, I was making good money, but I had associated or I had attached value to what I was doing, and I couldn't find purpose in that. So I completed that summer of sales, did decent for a new guy, and then I went into the spraying, teching, doing, once the sales season was over, I was spraying houses for the same company, and the CEO of the company came to town and took all of the guys paintballing. And I was on his team, and I'm the only veteran of all of these young salesmen. I ran our team like I would any sort of a mission.
Like a fire team, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we just laid weights. We crushed them every round. And so the CEO noticed and recognized the leadership in that, and asked if I would like to. And I was at this time there's a little bit of space there where I quit selling, or I quit spraying, and I went and worked as a roughneck in the oil fields in northern Utah. And I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, I'd like you to come to Phoenix, Arizona and run our national sales center. You're an amazing leader, and I could really use you down here." And I said, "Hell no, I am not going to Phoenix. The last place I ever wanted to be in my life was Phoenix, Arizona. It's fucking hot as balls here, man. We're like 117 degrees, And so I told him no at first. And right before he hung up the phone with me, and I literally was getting ready to get back in my truck and drive way back up north in Utah to go back to this oil rig. And right before he hung up, he said, "Listen, just remember, you will become like the 5 closest people you hang around." And I blew it off. I'm like, "Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Whatever." I wasn't into self-development at all. My family background are hardworking, red-blooded Americans. As a matter of fact, my cousin is Ammon Bundy, who took over the Oregon that Oregon standoff. That's my cousin, and I'm proud of him for standing up for what he believed in. And if anyone wants to send me messages offline, whatever. But by the way, they were fully acquitted, all of them, because it was right what they were doing. When you have to stand up for what you believe in, every man has to make that choice for himself. What the rest of the world didn't know is the facts. All they were listening to was the news. Anyway, that's where I come from. So the idea that I could change the way I think and create the world around me wasn't a thing. It was more of work hard, deal with the hand you're dealt, and just trust in God, right? Which sounds like a good plan. And so when he says this to me, I blew it off. I'm like, "Yeah, good, whatever. See ya." And I drove up, and I'm in this man camp, middle of nowhere, Wyoming at this time. And I'm looking around at the guys that I'm working with, and I'm constantly having to have my head on a swivel because they don't pay attention to detail. Now, I don't want to label all of them that way, but that's notorious in that field, or it was when I was there. People were getting killed or hurt all the time from being complacent. And I'm looking around, and some of these guys are making 6 figures a year, and they're living in squalor because they don't have the mindset to grow. And I'm thinking, all of a sudden, what he said just keeps. And I'm like, okay. I called him up. It was Wednesday. I'm 3 days in. I called him up, and I said, "Hey, is that job still available?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "I'll see you on Monday." So I finished out my week. I drove home. I packed my bags, and I drove to Phoenix. And I moved in with one of my buddies that I'd met selling. And I ran the sales center for a couple of years, and I did it very successfully. But I was still missing something. And so I ended up taking a position as that's when I went back for private security. And I did that for 3 months and realized that those guys played me big time. It was a $100,000 contract when I first signed it. By the time I landed in Baghdad, it had dropped to $60,000. And they're like, "Here's your new contract. If you want to stay," it was like 68.
Damn.
What?
Yeah.
So you couldn't have told me that in Reno, Nevada before I flew 30 hours across the freaking world. And that's just how they operated. Like, "Sorry. Contracts have dropped. If you want to stay, here it is. Otherwise, we'll give you a ticket and send you home." And I'm like, "Well, I'm already here. That flight sucks. Let me just see where it goes." And I definitely know that I'm looking for adventure in my life. And so I stayed. Anyway, so that's what brought me to Phoenix. That's what got me in the sales position. And, kind of started getting me into a position where I could start seeing differently. And then obviously I came back home, begged for my position back. They put me back out in the field. They weren't just going to give me back the leadership position I had because I left them. But after being in the field for about a month, I identified some things that were lacking in the company that could make them better. I brought them to the attention of the CEO and got right back into a leadership position that they needed me to help clean up. And then I did that for a little while. So,
Yeah. That's good. And it sounds like you didn't burn your relationships. So you didn't burn the boats. Like, you always had strong relationships. And I think that that's a core fundamental principle that a lot of veterans, they get out and they kind of drift. I was talking to a vet this past weekend that's actually in the New York area, hustler guy that joined because he came from a broken home, stuff like that. Joined the Uncle Sam's Misguided Children tribe, which is the Marine Corps. And he, his share was like, look, I've been all over the place. I don't know how to find a single focus, and I can't go back to any of the opportunities I've already failed at because I've failed in building those relationships. So I think that that's one principle that's super important for any ambitious vet that's out there, is even if you do get bigger opportunities or called to bigger things, it's like making sure that you're always living your life with building your relationships, always walking out with integrity and stuff like that. So you never know when you may have to, follow up with that previous relationship, and do business with them, or go back and build something brand new with them. All that, like, building relationships was a skill set that I had to learn the hard way as well. And it sounds like you were pretty good at that, man.
Yeah. And, you're right. And I didn't learn this distinction until later on, but there's a distinction we call self. Right. And I know what this is. And the distinction of self is that wherever a thought of you exists or your name is spoken, you exist there. Like, this physical being isn't me necessarily where I am. Where I am right now is everybody who's listening to me. And when they turn this off and if they go and talk about this, I'm in existence in that area. So when I'm interacting with people, the last thing I want to do is leave a trail of a broken self. And even if there's a breakdown with somebody, there's a way to leave powerfully that leaves them empowered and myself empowered. And that, like you said, always leaves the door open to be able to return if that's needed, because you never know where life is going to go. So why leave a trail of broken pieces?
Right.
So that was really important.
That's good. Whew. Why leave a trail of broken pieces? Ambitious vets, I hope you capture that one. If you're watching live right now or you're watching this on replay, definitely hashtag that golden grenade on your Facebook or your social media outlets. That's huge. So thanks for sharing that, brother. I mean, what did you learn throughout that process as you were going through sales managing, doing door-to-door pest control? I mean, obviously you had a lot of fortitude and grit from serving. So rejection was probably pretty easy for you to deal with. But I mean, what did you learn throughout the process going in and out of private security, going out through these different careers? When did you start learning what it was that you needed to be focusing on?
So, I'm glad you asked that question, because here's the deal. Even when I'm in these leadership positions and I'm making decent money and all that's great, I was not happy at all. I was actually very miserable. And then I found a CrossFit gym. That changed everything, not because of the fitness. And I want guys to really hear this, because I think it's so under-communicated that what will make a difference for people, especially veterans, is the release of the endorphins and the hormones that come from exercise. So think about this. When you're in the military, especially if you're a combat veteran, you have dopamine, adrenaline, and serotonin on full flow when you're in your deployments. You got the dopamine, adrenaline because of everything that's going on, and you've got the serotonin from your partner, from your buddies, right? If shit goes down, Chris has got my back, and I know it. And when it does go down, we're going to high five each other and congratulate each other. That's the serotonin. I'm getting rewarded for being a badass with my boys. That's all on full flow. And the moment you land back home in a plane, it gets shut off. Especially when we come home, a lot of us come home and we've got, we want to carry on with our life. So what do? We go to school. Well, what's school? School's sitting in front of a desk and a computer all freaking day long.
Right.
So you have no adrenaline and no dopamine being released at all. And if you're in your own room like this, studying hour after hour, you're not getting any serotonin. Unless you're playing video games, they'll get that little icon badge. Believe it or not, that's releasing serotonin. So that's why Call of Duty might give you some relief. because you're getting that ghillie suit. If I get 150 headshots with this sniper rifle, I'm going to get that ghillie suit. That sounds foolish, but that's serotonin.
Yep.
When you go into a gym, a group training environment, and by the way, that's why a lot of guys will go out and do reckless things to put themselves in harm's way.
Yep.
They're getting that dopamine and that adrenaline. They don't know. They just know they like it. Well, they're just fulfilling a need that's lost. If you want to do it safely because you got a family or you want to take care of yourself and you don't want to get in a wreck going 150 miles down the freeway, guess what? There's another way to do it. Go find a gym, a community of people that will stand for you, showing up, and they'll cheer for you when you're doing something. And here's the other magical thing about it. It's hard to connect with civilians. But when you go into a gym like mine or like other CrossFit or functional fitness or any sort of group training facilities, you get to train shoulder to shoulder with civilians, and you start developing a new tribe that you didn't think was possible. When you're doing push-ups and you're dying or burpees or whatever, and 60-year-old grandma next to you is whooping your ass and she says, come on, AJ, you got it. You don't realize it, but you just got more connected to this 60-year-old grandma than you ever thought was possible because she gave you a dose of serotonin that you didn't think existed. And it's also being released in an environment where you've got your adrenaline and dopamine. So now you've opened that faucet up again. So let me bring it around. When I started that, my mind cleared. The self-pity, the what am I missing? I can't find a connection to be home. That got solved. And all of a sudden I saw possibility. And then I could start chasing what really mattered to me. But you have to work hard. I've spent a lot of time looking at this because my battle buddy killed himself in 2012. This was the guy that, what? Dens? I can't believe Dens did that. That guy, I mean, he's the guy that we wanted to be like in the unit. How did that happen? So I start looking into it, and that's where all this stuff come up. You got to have that connection. And the difference between our war and past wars, especially World War II. My grandpa was a sniper in World War II. He was also the advanced party on the 42nd Rainbow Division that was the first couple of guys to step foot inside Dachau prison camp before they knew those places existed. They didn't have the suicide rate that we did. But you know what they had? When they came home in the 40s, they had to work their asses off to build the infrastructure of our country. All they had available were manual labor jobs. So dopamine and adrenaline was part of their daily activity. And shoulder to shoulder were all the vets that returned home. So they had connection there, relationships that they could relate to.
Right.
Now, this is AJ's Thoughts 101, right?
Fucking love it, man. You're getting raw. No, I love it. And this question's is here for me. And then I want to dive into how you bring culture around you, because you're very good at that. And I think any ambitious vet that could learn how to build culture around them and tribes around them could really create some amazing things. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on veterans getting out that are not seeking the serotonin, those dopamine, chemicals inside the brain to keep this alive feeling, this energy, this frequency that we have as veterans, high performing veterans? Because think about it, we're highly executing human beings. Why do you think there's veterans that are getting out that want to just totally shut it down and want to collect disability and increase the disability, take advantage of the GI Bill and ride that out as long as they have? Why do you think there are veterans out there that are super entitled?
Well, I just think it's a blind spot. They don't know what they don't know. Right. I think that's really the biggest thing, because if they had a chance to experience what was possible, they wouldn't be living in the life they're living in. Right. And the hardest thing for anybody to give up is the willingness to change the way they think. Right. Where we hold on to that. Our ego's like, no, don't do that. Right. The ego is really powerful. The ego controls much of our decisions. And your ego is very attached to the way you think. Because if you start changing it, I think the ego knows that it might be killed off multiple times. I mean, that's necessary. To grow, you're going to have to kill your ego over and over and over again. Yep. That means giving up the way you think. That means, dare I say, looking at a Antifa dude and being like, okay, maybe there's something that I might have in common with, right? Not saying they're right, but if you're not willing to consider different ways, right? I mean, I come from that world. Like, the world I come from was I don't go into it, but I get it. But unless you're willing to if you're not happy with where you're at, like if you're that guy and you're like, man, I'm just, you're just trying to take, you're not happy.
Yep.
And I know that at some point they have to have some little thought that maybe there's another way. They just have to be willing to start changing the way they think. And look, when we went to basic training or boot camp, we were trained for a very linear purpose. We talked about, my wife and I have a podcast called Dream Big, Play Bigger. It's for veteran couples.
Nice.
Yeah. And so we were trained for a very linear purpose. And I joked that my MOS to become a nuclear biological chemical operations specialist didn't have a section on how to have a better marriage as well. Right. It was not, that's not part of it. They don't care. They have to train us for a job to do. And how long was that? Mine was months. Boot camp was I don't remember, 4 months or something. It's been a long time. Boot camp was a very long time.
Right.
Because they had to change the way I thought. And then my AIT was another very long time to change the way I did my job. And so I've got this chunk of time where they condition you over and over and over again. And so to think that you can come home and operate the same way without reprogramming the way you view the world is foolish. You have to be willing to give up the veteran. So it's kind of be a touchy subject, right? But you have
good
to
stuff. No, that's good stuff.
Yeah, because that's where these guys are stuck. These guys are stuck with, I'm a veteran. You're not a veteran. That's not who you are.
Right.
You have a veteran designation. Use the shit out of that when you go apply for a job or whatever, because you earned it.
Right.
But if you live every single day that I'm a veteran, that's not who you are. I call it the Uncle Rico effect. If you've ever seen Napoleon Hill or Napoleon Dynamite, Uncle Rico used to throw a football a quarter mile.
Quarter mile. Throw that quarter mile.
Yeah. And he's living in a minivan because he can't get over his best days. He thinks we're those days.
Amen. Come on.
We as veterans do the same thing. I'm a veteran. This is what I do. And so I'm in it every single day, all day long. And so, of course, you can't see anything outside of this. This is all you see. As soon as you're willing to say, okay, guess what? Surprise, surprise. You're a civilian. You're a civilian with a veteran designation. That's all you are. And if you're not willing to accept that, here's the thing, you're not going to lose the skills that have value. So don't be afraid to be able to transition the way you think. I'm still a very protective father. I still have a pistol by my bed that I know how to clear very quickly, and I'm going to clear the house if I hear something. I'm going to do that because I've been trained to do that. But I'm also able to be in the room with anybody and have love for them and see what can make them possible, because that opens my world to create more.
I love it. I love it. No, man, I love it. And I love talking about controversial topics like that because more veterans need to hear that.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. There are veterans that are getting out that seek that dopamine, that serotonin rush, and they seek bigger challenges. And I think once we start learning as ambitious vets that the veteran title is simply just a credibility booster, credential, another bullet inside of our gun to shoot when we're out there pursuing things, I think the veteran title could be used as leadership, strategy, execution, getting shit done, results driven, stuff like that. That's what I think of as an ambitious vet, resourceful.
Yes.
Stuff like that has us get out there and create really effective results.
Yeah.
And if we're leaning on disability and GI Bill and we're slowing down in life, I hated slowing down. To hit on your subject, man, because you're getting inside my heart right now. I guarantee you're getting into a lot of people's hearts. Is that, to set an example of what you just said, is that I couldn't stand going back to a 4-year university whenever I got out, that I had to go to national university because I needed the stress and the pressure of putting 6 months workload into 1 month. I needed that pressure. So I got a psychology degree in like a year and a half.
Way to go, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's your dopamine and adrenaline right there.
It's talking right on your subject. I think it's brilliant, man. I've never heard that in the veteran space at all, around us seeking the serotonin, the dopamine, all those adrenaline chemicals inside the brain, like triggering those. I think that's a powerful topic that you should talk more about as you're building,
Yeah.
you and your wife's new brand of helping military families get out and rekindle that passion, which is kind of what I want to, dive in now, because we've already taken a lot of time, because I love fucking talking to you, brother. But, tell me about, like, one thing that I was telling you before we went live is, like, it sounds like you've experienced so much in life, right? You built up tons of experiences in your life. You've had a huge sales background, knocking door to door, private security. You've started companies. You've created a promotion company that's reached well over 200,000 people global, and stuff like that. And now, through all those experiences, now you're saying, I want to help military spouses get out, like military couples get out and thrive inside their relationships. What had this manifest, brother?
Yeah. So, what manifested it, what inspired me is I've got a member of my gym. Her husband's getting ready to come home. He's a Marine and he's on his way home, and she's nervous. And so I was just talking to her, and she's like, he's changed. He's not the same guy. And that reminded me of what my wife told me. Just right out of basic training, I was different. We dated, my wife and I are high school sweethearts. We've been together 18 years. We've been married 15.
Wow.
And she said, right after basic, you were a whole different person. And I've asked her, do you think you would have been with me because as a different person, because you fell in love with me one way and the Army changed me to a new way? And she goes, that's a good question. I couldn't answer it because that's the past that I don't live in. But so I'm seeing this girl and she's in tears, that she's nervous. She loves her husband and she's afraid they won't be able to connect. She goes, he doesn't share anything with me. And I said, yeah, I get it. Totally get it. Yeah. Like, what could we possibly share that they're going to understand? But that's not the point. So that's what kind of triggered. And I started thinking, I'm like, man, my wife and we almost divorced a few times. There was actually a day, it was a Sunday. I had a friend of mine come take my kids out of the house, and I sat my wife down. I said, I'm done. I'd been chasing a girl here in my gym. I was going to marry her. I was going to leave my wife and run off with this girl.
Wow.
Because we weren't connecting. And I had told myself this story in my head that my wife was so pissed off and annoyed with our relationship as well, that when I sit her down, she's going to be like, good riddance. I can't fucking stand you. That's what I'm thinking. Instead, I saw a destroyed woman. And the moment, so I tell her, I'm done. I don't want to be married to you. I'm out. And she looked at me and she said, you're breaking my heart. And her voice was cracking. She started crying. And when I heard that, all of the stuff that I had told myself, the world I had created with my thoughts, right? Your thoughts create your reality.
Right.
It went away and I saw the truth. And the truth was, I'm a fucking asshole. Like, what in the hell did I just do? And it was devastating for me and for her, obviously. And so we were at that point. Like, we were at a point where I would look at her and I'm just like, I can't stand this woman. Like, I don't want to be with this girl anymore. And now when I see her, I'm like, how could I have ever thought that? You might not think that you could ever see your spouse the same way you do now than you did before. And you're wrong. I even said at one point, if I could put in a program and it would, put a copy of her out that was exactly how I wanted, a porn star in the bedroom, the best mother to my children, the best cook. I mean, if I could program it, I don't want anything to do with that woman. And I was talking to a professional life coach about that. And I said, so apparently something's messed up here, because if I could do that, why wouldn't I want to be with her?
Right.
And he suggested I go to a program called the Landmark Forum and start changing my mind. It's the way I perceive things, because I was still living in that world that I wasn't changing the way I saw things. And that's where it started. And then I really dove into transforming my thoughts, transforming my life. And really what that means is having control of the way I think. So now I'm still the same way I always was, but I'm aware of who I am. So when it comes up, I can pick and choose when I want to have that, let's say, attitude, right? My strong suit. I can choose when that belongs. So one of my strong suits is, I don't need you. I'm going to do it my way. It doesn't work in marriage, but it can definitely work in business. So now I'm aware of that, so I can choose it. So that girl told me about it. That kicked it off. My wife and I are in I look at this woman and I cannot believe how lucky I am to go from where I was to this. And guess what? The best part is I get to raise my 3 daughters. I don't have some other asshole in my house raising my 3 girls.
Right.
And so this girl's telling me this, and I'm like, we have a responsibility. And my wife, by the way, is not really she's slowly getting into this world. And it's really amazing to see the closer we get, how much she's willing to invest in that, transforming her own thoughts, how much closer we continue to get. And we can have conversations about stressful things that don't cause arguments. And so I went home to her, and I didn't know if she would be willing to do this, right? Because she's more of a private person than I am. And I said, hey, what if we create a podcast and a coaching business where we coach veteran couples on how to reignite what got them together in the first place? Because of where we're at together, she's like, let's do it. And man, it's been the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've done some really cool shit, but the funnest thing I do in my life is to sit right next to my wife with a microphone and talk about our relationship so that others can possibly save the relationship that they have and be the father or the mother of the children that they have together. And guess what? That'll translate to a history, a generation of people that we can possibly reprogram where we're headed.
Yep.
Not a divorce, right? But here's the thing. You can't be a fucking quitter. It's going to take work. Don't be a coward. If you're out on patrol and shit hits the fan, we don't fucking run. So don't run.
I love it.
You got to treat your marriage the same way.
Bring it.
Yeah.
Bring it. Fucking awesome, man. So, brother, I love the intensity. I love like the focus. I love where you're going with this. And what I want to drop in for the Ambitious Vet Tribe right now is he's a prime example that your life experiences ultimately add up to you revealing your life's work.
Yep.
It really is. Like his life experiences of going through this all over the place lifestyle, just like a lot of you guys that voice inside this tribe that you're dealing with, you're kind of all over the place with your career path, your passions, your ambitions, stuff like that. And you're kind of just trying to find that steady flow. Now, AJ is a prime example of finding that steady flow, starting some major businesses that are thriving based on his passion, his energy, and his will to this cast vision that people follow. And this man's actually openly sharing that his marriage was failing and that he was a complete asshole in it. So, guys, I just suggest that you guys reach out to AJ. He's one of the most successful, ambitious vets that I have in my internal network. This guy, I met with him, I think like 2.5 years ago or something like that in the Introduction Leaders Program. And I could just, sometimes you just get the energy of someone as being a hustler, a grinder, and someone that's really had to go through the grinder to become who they are, because you'll find ambitious vets that out there, there's going to be people that talk a big game, but their words are empty. But AJ is someone that when he speaks, he has weight to his words because he's experienced everything that you guys are currently experiencing, going through right now, or will be going through in the future. And guys, anybody that's, dealing with this, damn it, I'm out of the uniform, I'm trying to figure out my passion, not only for my life, but for this woman, because a woman is the rock to a relationship.
Yep.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, certainly. I'm unstoppable when we're linked up. When we're linked up, man, when I know that she's got my back no matter what, the amount of things that I can accomplish. I mean, look, women, they destroy countries because, or kingdoms, because that's the power they have. I mean, let's be real. Throughout history of the world, kingdoms have been destroyed because of women.
Yeah.
Because of obviously they're amazing too, because they can also build it when you're in alignment. And with my wife by my side, but it took me taking care of her. Here's one of the things. Let me leave this some value, right? If you're listening and you're dealing with that, and we share this in our podcast as well. You have to not keep score with one another anymore. We were both keeping track, basically. I did this for you, and you didn't do this for me, and back and forth. Somebody's going to have to give. If you can give, great. If you can give in and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to be the one that says, I don't care that you've not done anything that you think, and maybe she has and you just can't see it, but I don't care that she hasn't done anything in return for me that I want. And I'm going to start giving freely and fully everything that I know she wants. I'm going to start it. And when that person is willing to start it, you'll be surprised. And it'll take time. And you're going to they're going to do something, and you're going to want to be like, see, it's not working. Don't quit. You still got to fight. You're still on patrol. Shit's still flying, and you still got to keep walking. You got to treat it that way. So don't keep score. Just start giving fully, and don't expect anything in return, and it will happen. It may take a month, depending on how damaged your relationship was. I mean, dude, it took me forever. It took me forever. When I started the Introduction Leadership Program, it was 6 months after I had told her that I was going to leave her. And I didn't tell her that it was because of this other girl. And the first day of, and you'll know this, the first day of Introduction Leadership Program is without integrity, nothing works. And the whole time they're saying that, I'm like, oh, shit. I'm going to have to open this wound and tell her that I was going to leave her because of this girl who is still training in our gym today, and clean that all up officially, because I hadn't cleaned it up. I pretended like if I just cut it off, it's good. It's not good. You got to clean it up. It's got to be out there in the open so you can start healing it. So don't keep track. Start working on it and be fully in integrity and be fully authentic. So.
Wow. That's awesome. How long have you guys been together now today?
Let's see. We were March 13th of 2003 was when we got married. So we're about just over 15 years married, and then just over 18 years together, roughly.
Wow. Exactly. Wow. That's awesome. And so I mean, that's freaking awesome, man. I love hearing that story. I love hearing you get authentic. And for those of you guys that don't know what the Landmark Forum is, it's an international personal and professional development company that focuses on transformative learning and stuff like that. It just helps you get released from constraints that you would not see if you weren't taking their programs and stuff like that. So I'm sure that AJ and his wife is going to be implementing some of those strategies inside of their coaching practice and stuff like that, I'm sure. And brother, I mean, before we go ahead and let you go and give you a shout out on how they can get more connected to you and what you and your wife are doing, I want you to drop in 3 golden grenades for any ambitious vet that's watching right now that could create some immediate impact in their life and getting out there and living a top performing life out of uniform. What would those 3 golden grenades be?
Number 1, start training. If you're not training, if you're not active, start doing it. Unless you're working construction, shoveling rock out in the dead of the summer, you need to start training. There's something that is really valuable and important in that, right? And you're going to just be healthier longer. The second thing is be willing to transform the way you think. You have to be willing to transform your mind and kill the ego over and over again until you discover who you really are. And the third thing, your thoughts will control your reality. If there's this science that we are 75% water, right? And if you can research it, there's a Japanese scientist, as an example, he had cups of water and he taped words to it: love, hate, ugly, anger, beauty, all of these things. And then he took that water and he looked at it under a microscope, and the water took on these forms based off of the energy that was given to the water. The water that had the beautiful words, right? The words of positivity had these beautiful patterns, all different kinds. And the water that had the negative words taped to it looked like blobs. They were ugly. You'd look at it and think, damn, what the fuck's wrong with that water? You know? Well, here's the thing. The way you think is charging the 75% water in your body. It sounds crazy, sounds voodoo, but do the research on your own. And what a scientist will tell you, the way you know it's real is if you can measure it. Well, they're looking at it. Here it is. And it's not just that one scientist. I've heard it from 3 others proving the same thing in the very same way. So you got to change your thoughts so you can change the world you're in. If I could recommend a book, can I recommend a couple books real quick?
Of course, brother. Okay. Come on now.
For your relationship, you need to read His Needs, Her Needs, and really put that into practice. This book was written back in like 1980 something, and I was told about it, but I brushed it off. If you're struggling in your marriage, you and your spouse need to read and study together His Needs, Her Needs. And the second book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And you need to look at that one the same way. If you're willing to take on those 2 books and research them, not just read through them and be done, but make them a part of your life, you will create a life that you never thought possible for yourself and your family.
It's awesome. Love that. I'm going to go pick up the He Needs, She Needs, because I just started dating an amazing woman. and I want to get more out of myself, man. So definitely, for sure, I'm going to pick up that book. And Think and Grow Rich, man, was the book that I read when I was on deployment in Afghanistan that changed my whole perspective on how I was going to live my life. That's a perspective changer.
Yeah.
Really. So thanks for dropping those in, brother.
Absolutely.
So where can people go and find, what you and your wife are creating? What's the name? Have you created a name for this coaching brand and stuff like that? Like, where can they come and find this, and how can they figure out more about what you guys are creating with this?
Yeah, so we are part of the Heroes Media Group network. So you can go onto the website and find us there, or you can just go to iTunes under Dream Big, Play Bigger. That's also the Instagram. That's also my Instagram is Dream Big, Play Bigger. And you can find that on Facebook as well. And we also have a website. So if you just go to dreambigplaybigger.com, you'll be able to find other resources there. And if you want to shoot me an email, you can. There's an email submission on that website, and I'm happy to just be with people and see how I can support them.
Nice. Yeah, I'll get the link, guys, for what AJ and his wife are doing, and I'll go ahead and drop that in the comments below right after this. So guys, definitely reach out to him. One thing I've learned from AJ is he is a guy that's always looking to better himself. He's always been a guy that naturally builds culture around him, builds tribes around him from just on how he's being. People follow passion. Jim Rohn was one of the mentors that I read a lot in my network marketing days. And he says, it's not about what not about really about what you're saying, but it's about how you feel about what you're saying that really makes a difference. It's about bringing that energy and having, I think it's called frame control in the business world, where people have to adapt to your energy versus theirs. And that's how you really can influence behavior, people, all that. So guys, find out what your passion is, connect with AJ, and figure out, for those of you guys that are not necessarily thriving or passionate and looking at that woman that you've been dating or married to for years, and you're not just like, wow, I want to rip her fucking clothes off. Like us vets, we're rough, that tough, that devil dog. Like I want you guys to reach out to AJ. Listen to the podcast. The guy is one of the most passionate, authentic, honest guys that I know. So definitely reach out to him. So AJ, I just want to acknowledge you, man, for joining the Ambitious Vet. I know we've spent a hell of a lot more time than we had scheduled for this, man. So thank you for your time. And I know you're extremely busy, man. And yeah, man, just thanks for who you are for the military community, man.
Yeah. And you as well. Thanks for bringing the awareness to those guys so we can, help everybody that's looking for it.
Yeah. That's what this is all about.
All right, Ambitious Vets. Hope you enjoyed episode number 29 of the Ambitious Vet Show with AJ Richards. Guys, this is going to be the last one we're going to do without sponsorships, affiliates, and all that good stuff coming in here. As in 2019, as I've said before, is we really are focused on one thing, and that is scaling this podcast, getting higher quality guests inside of here, but more importantly, bringing more podcast military related closer to the Ambitious Vet. There's just a little teaser. I'm not going to give you guys all of it, but it's going to be exciting come January, February, and March time period. So guys, as always, I'm going to drop in my afterthoughts. I mean, the biggest thing, guys, that I got out of this was 3 golden grenades that I'm going to take and carry with me probably for the rest of my life. And it kind of opened my mind to, really realizing why I'm always seeking an adrenaline rush outside of the uniform, because that's always what we were doing inside the uniform, right? So, guys, I mean, think about it. Where are you in your life right now? Are you not fulfilling the serotonin, the dopamine, and releasing those chemicals in the brain that allow you to feel like you are actually executing under pressure? Find things that challenge you in a big way that you have to grow into out of the uniform. If it's your job, if it's your business, if it's your spouse, if it's your happiness, if you're trying to learn a new trade, develop a hobby, whatever it may be, figure out what the thing that scares the shit out of you and take those needed steps and put deadlines on it so you feel that adrenaline rush. And every time that you achieve things, you're going to feel that dopamine release, which feels extremely well for a lot of us that know what a dopamine release is. So guys, also build relationships, guys. You got to be building quality relationships. I was reading a stat right before I started recording this podcast tonight, and it said that 33% of people are going to love you, 33% of people are going to hate you, and 33% of people don't even care about you.
Your job is to focus on the 33% of people that are engaging with you, liking you, and all that, guys, and build those relationships and figure out how you guys can create win-wins in your life. And I promise you, your life will change. And guys, and the last golden grenade I got was let your experiences reveal your life's work. See, AJ started as a door-to-door salesman, became a sales trainer, started a couple businesses, and now is about to travel in an RV with his wife and kids, coaching, relationship coaching, guys. It doesn't have to be an epic end result as long as it's fulfilling and impactful and aligned with what matters most to you. And AJ has found that out. Let your experiences reveal your life's work. As always, guys, feedback is the lifeblood of this podcast. If you have any good or bad feedback, email me at choffman@vettrainingcoaching.com. That's 2 F's and 2 N's. Go ahead and rate and review the podcast, as that allows me to get more quality guests inside this podcast and spit more quality passion inside your ears for you to narrow your time frame from getting to where you are to where you want to go. And lastly, guys, we already know that you're warrior made, but to become passion driven, just utilize one golden grenade from this interview today. And I promise you, in the next 3 months, 6 months, maybe even 5 years from now, you will be living that passion driven life. Now, guys, let's go get it.